Hey, distance learners, I hope you guys are doing well. Today we're going to be talking about something known as an author or a speaker's tone. This is something that you should definitely have heard of before, but today we're going to be talking about it in a little bit more detail and as a refresher. So let's get started. So what is an author or speaker's tone? Before we answer that question, I want you to imagine this scenario with me. Imagine that you're walking down the school hallway and you see your friend and you have not seen them in a long time. Let's imagine it's been back from quarantine and we're all safe to say hi and say hello and give hugs and things like that. And you say hi and you get a facial expression that looks like this man here and a wave back that's very reluctant and a hey. Imagine you got that response. Now imagine you're in that same scenario and your friend is coming, your friend that you have not seen in a long time coming down the hallway, and you say, hi, just in the same way, very excited and happy, and you get a happy smile like this girl, and her hand waves back and it is excited. Which of these responses might you be more excited to get back from one of your friends who you haven't seen in a long time? I think most of us would be more excited to get a happy or excited response back to our excited response. If you get a hey back in response or a hi, how are you excited back with an excited voice, that often indicates that the person is also excited. So we can understand tone in person very easily based off of how a person says something. If they say hi, or if they say hey, it's easy to understand their emotions. It's a little bit harder to understand when it's written out. So we're going to be talking about something called tone, which is the author's or speaker's attitude towards a text, like a poem or a story's subject matter, events, audience, or central idea. So just like a person speaks out loud with a certain tone, people also write with a certain tone, and we're going to be talking about that today. All right, so some of the things or questions we can ask ourselves is, how do we determine tone? So there are a few things that we can look at. We can look at something called diction, which is the word choice that the author chose to use. If they use words with positive, uplifting, happy meanings and connotations, we could potentially make a guess that they are also feeling or have an attitude of happiness or excitement or joy. We can also look at clues like the title of the poem or chapter or book. We can look at footnotes, which are little notes at the bottom of the page. We might add more details. We can look at the punctuation. If they use exclamation points, if they use question marks, if they use commas a lot, using and looking at the punctuation like that will help us determine how they're feeling or what they're thinking. And another thing we can do when we're reading is we can ask ourselves questions as we read a story or poem. Some of the questions we can ask ourselves: why do we think the author wrote this? Why did they write this poem? What are they trying to explain or say with this poem? Who was their intended audience? Who did they want or who did they imagine reading this poem? Why do we think they want the reader to learn, or what do we think they want the reader to learn, understand, or think about? What are they trying to tell us with this poem? What emotions does this poem make me feel? A fifth question, what does the speaker think about what is happening in the text? And the last question is, how does the speaker feel about what is happening in the text? Asking these questions and answering them will often help us understand what the tone of a specific passage or poem is. One thing that a lot of students mix up with tone is something called mood. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but it's important that you understand that the tone of a passage or poem is not your emotional feelings after you read it. That is called the mood. Our emotional response to a reading of a text is known as the mood of that poem or story. Tone is the author's feeling or attitude about the events taking place in the text. All right, so let's talk about your assignment for today. Today you're going to be doing a small matching assignment where you read one of our poems from the crossover and you answer some questions about what the tone of this poem is. So you'll read this poem, and then you'll choose what word best describes the stanza's tone, first stanza's tone, which is this first chunk right here. And then you'll answer all of these questions about text evidence and how this poem makes you feel, and answer some questions about what the feelings, some questions of the types of things we talked about in this video today. All right, if you have any questions, please message me in Canvas or email me. Have a great rest of your day.